another one for y'all boys.
Let's say you've committed a crime and are now facing charges. There's a witness in the case, and you're sitting there thinking, if that person just wasn't around anymore, maybe this whole thing goes away. Maybe the case falls apart with them being gone. That's the logic the average criminal uses when they take a life during or after a crime. No face, no case. You could be facing 5 years in prison for a simple robbery, but if you took out the witness, you'd be facing 0 years. So long as no one ever catches you for it, because then you're facing life. Obviously, most times, killing someone goes the other way. Sometimes you kill the witness and it doesn't help you at all, it just makes everything 10 times worse. And soon enough, you realize way too late that you just destroyed your own life for absolutely nothing. Well, a carjacker from Detroit learned this lesson the hard way in the fall of 2018 when he tried to get his theft case dropped, only to destroy everything in the process.
My question is, bro, why aren't you that broke to where you got stealing? Like, why is we stealing cars, bro? It's too much money out here to be made to be stealing cars. At that point, bro, you was a broke ass bum. Something need to be done with you, bro. Weirdo.
His business, his life, his friend's life, and even his relationship with his girl all gone over a poorly made decision that took less than a week to make. Starkeisha Thompson was 33 years old, living in Detroit with her teenage son. She worked, stayed out of trouble, and minded her business. But in September 2018, she became a victim of something she had nothing to do with. It was September 7th at around 9 at night. Starkeisha and her boyfriend pulled into a BP gas station on North Harper Avenue in Harper Woods to get gas. They were in a nice 2018 Dodge Charger, but someone was eyeing their car. A guy walked up to the driver's side, pulled out a gun, and told them both to get out. Then he just got in the Charger and drove off with it. The guy's name was Kenneth Dixon. He was 26 years old from Warren, about 20 minutes north of Detroit. Harper Woods police spotted the stolen Charger later that night cruising around on Detroit's east side. When they tried to pull him over, Dixon bailed out and tried to run. They caught him after a short foot chase. He got arrested and hit with 15 felony charges, including carjacking, 2 counts of armed robbery, receiving stolen property, and resisting police. They gave this goofy the whole ass package. The judge wasn't playing around either. He denied bond completely and kept Dixon locked up in Wayne County Jail.
As he should.
Turns out Dixon already had a criminal history. He'd done time for armed robbery before and had only gotten out of prison earlier that same year, so he'd been free for maybe a few months before he was right back in a cell, this time facing way more serious charges. Now here's the thing, a lot of people have mixed opinions regarding going to court in cases like a carjacking. You file the police report, sure, you of course tell the cops what happened, but actually going to court, sitting in front of the defendant and testifying against them in person is a whole different level of involvement. A lot of people would just say, nah, I'm good, and try to stay as far away from the whole situation as possible. But Starkeisha wasn't like that. She decided she was going to do the right thing and show up to testify. On October 3rd, 2018, Starkeisha showed up to Dixon's preliminary examination at the courthouse and told the court exactly what happened that night. She identified Dixon as the guy who carjacked them. She walked the prosecutor through the whole incident step by step, pulling into the gas station, the gun being pulled, being forced out of her car, and watching him drive away in it. But while all this was going on, Dixon wasn't just sitting.
My thing is, bro, that's not no SRT8, bro. Why is you still in that car? Like, let's be for real, bro. That is a 2008, maybe 10 Charger. Who just stole that for wait? That shit ain't nothing but about $5,000, bro. You couldn't get $5,000 up, nigga. Nigga, you that much of a dumbass and a broke nigga that you can't get $5,000 up, bro? That shit wasn't even worth stealing. You a fucking goofball, bro.
There listening to
you. You don't feel like getting up, going out, or working out? Sounds like you don't feel like much of a man anymore.
Testimony. He was paying attention to everything in those court documents, and somehow during this whole court process, he managed to get access to Starkeisha's home address. It was right there in the paperwork. Victim information is supposed to be redacted and protected, so defendants can't find out where witnesses live, but Dixon got it anyway due to a failure of the court. Regardless of however the info got in there, now he knew exactly where she lived. 6 days later, October 9th,
I went back 'cause
2018,
I've actually
early in the
been to
morning,
this place.
Starkeisha went through her normal routine. It was a Wednesday at around 8:05 in the morning. She dropped her son off at school like she always did, then went home and pulled into her driveway at her home on Collingham Drive, just off Cordell Street on Detroit's east side. She got out of the car, probably thinking about her day and maybe what she needed to get done at work. But what she probably wasn't thinking about was the stranger stalking her every move nearby. Corey Holmes was a 39-year-old ex-con who'd met Dixon when they were both locked up in prison years earlier. Holmes had been out for a while, but he and Dixon stayed connected. And when Dixon needed someone willing to kill for him, Holmes was apparently that person. He'd been sitting there waiting for Starkeisha to come home. The moment she stepped out of her car, he walked right up to her in her own driveway and started shooting. Corey shot her an alarming 12 times, hitting her in the head and body. Witnesses later said they heard the gun.
My thing is, bro, shit like this costs money, bro. So, with that being said, why couldn't you just go get some money and go get you a fucking car? Like, yeah, I hate you. I don't like you niggas, bro. I don't. Y'all is weird. Y'all is broke, weird, and just want to stay in the streets. Like, that's y'all.
Fire echoing through the neighborhood that morning. Starkeisha didn't have a chance to run or defend herself. She died right there on the pavement, just a few steps from her front door. Her neighbors called 911, but by the time police and paramedics arrived, she was gone. Starkeisha's father, Curtis, was absolutely destroyed. He showed up to the crime scene that morning and told reporters that the police had pressured his daughter to testify against Dixon. Quote, "She didn't want to testify because these guys were violent," he said. "They carjacked her with a gun." He felt like the system had put his daughter in danger and then failed to protect her. The whole thing was so overwhelming. Standing there on the other side of the police tape, watching investigators examine the spot where his daughter...
Because how the fuck her address or shit even get inside this shit? First and foremost. Second and foremost, bro, they supposed to be giving her like protection or something, bro. They ain't even getting her witness protection. Like, they ain't give her nothing.
Had just been murdered, that he literally collapsed. His heart couldn't take it. Detroit Police Chaplain Cedric Wyckoff had to rush over and resuscitate him right there at the scene. Later, Detroit Police Chief James Craig held a press conference and revealed something important. Before Starkeisha even testified, Dixon and his people had tried to pay her off. They'd reached out and offered her money to stay quiet and not show up to court. She refused multiple times. She wasn't doing it for money or recognition or anything like that. She just thought it was the right thing to do to put the man who robbed her behind bars and prevent him from robbing others. She had no idea that decision would get her killed. Dixon, however, wasn't alone in this. His girlfriend, 23-year-old Yalana Streeter, had been helping him plan the whole thing. She was on the outside while Dixon was locked up, so she could move around freely and help coordinate everything. And once Starkeisha was dead, all three of them, Dixon, Streeter, and Holmes, probably thought they'd pulled it off clean. They were dead wrong.
Hold on, bro. Y'all put this much thought process in all this. Y'all even offered to pay the lady off, but you can go pay for you a fucking car? You had to be using that car for something. Like, you have a car game. You didn't have a car. And what was this? 2020, 2023? You didn't have a car. Like,
police knew exactly where to look. Dixon had the most obvious motive in the world. Starkeisha had just testified against him 6 days ago, and now she was dead. It didn't take a genius to connect those dots. So detectives immediately started pulling Dixon's jail calls from Wayne County Jail to see what he'd been talking about. And this is where people always mess up. Every single call you make from jail is recorded. There's an actual warning that plays before every call telling you that. But Dixon, being a goofy, still talked like nobody was listening. Dixon, Streeter, and Holmes had been on the phone discussing everything. They talked about Starkeisha by name, discussed how to make sure she couldn't testify, and planned out what needed to happen and who was going to do it. Dixon coordinated everything from his jail cell, Streeter helped set things up on the outside, and Holmes was the one willing to actually pull the trigger. These goofies basically handed the prosecutors their entire case on a silver fucking platter. On October 17th, 2018, just 8 days after the murder, Detroit police arrested Streeter and Holmes. 2 days later, on October 19th, the Wayne County prosecutor charged all three of them, Dixon, Streeter, and Holmes, with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, witness intimidation, and retaliating against a witness. Holmes got hit with extra charges for being a felon felon with a gun? In December 2018, Streeter did something straight out of a Tubi series. She was looking at life in prison, so she took a deal. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and agreed to testify against Dixon and Holmes as a witness, doing the very thing that had gotten them in this ridiculous mess in the first place. In exchange, she'd get 11 to 25 years instead of life. She got sentenced in 2019 and shipped off to prison. Dixon's trial finally happened in October 2022, 4 years after the murder. The delay was partly because of COVID shutting down courts, but also partly because of how complicated the case was. His carjacking case and the murder case got combined into one massive trial, so the jury was hearing about everything at once. The prosecutors played the jail recordings in court. You could hear Dixon's voice on tape discussing the murder, and of course, the jury heard the testimony against him, the evidence regarding the carjacking case that had started the whole thing, and his very obvious motives. The jury convicted him on everything: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, witness intimidation, and witness retaliation. On November 10th, 2022, the judge sentenced him to life without parole on the murder charges, meaning he'd never be eligible for parole ever. Then the judge added 13 to 22.5 years for the witness intimidation charge and 10 to 15 years for the witness retaliation charge. Those sentences were concurrent, meaning they'd run at the same time as the life sentence. He also got convicted for the original carjacking and got another 29 to 50 years for that. It didn't matter though. Life without parole means life without parole. Dixon was never getting out. He'd die in prison. And all of this over a stupid Dodge Charger. Holmes went to trial a year later in June 2023. He was the actual trigger man, the guy who physically walked up to Starkeisha in her driveway that morning and pulled the trigger 12 times while she was just trying to get into her house after dropping her son at school. The jury heard all the same evidence, and the Wayne County jury convicted him of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and witness retaliation. On July 14th, 2023, the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. No chance of ever getting out. Then the judge added another 6 to 10 years on top of that for the witness retaliation charge, and this one was consecutive, not concurrent, meaning even after the life without parole sentence, he'd technically still owe those extra years. It's redundant, obviously, but it sent
I ain't gonna lie, bro. You that stupid, bro, to rob somebody for a car that's not good. A car that probably costs about 5 to 10,000. Deserve to be in prison. You couldn't even go that much money, but you had that much money to offer her. Why? You had that much money right here and go and get somebody else to go be a hitman. What the world is wrong with? That being said, it's your boy Emery, and I'm home. Peace.